There's been chaos erupting in the United Kingdom with riots over immigration, far-right and immigrant protesters clashing in the streets, quite literally. Let's go ahead and put some of the video our team assembled here. This is just some examples of what's been happening.
It's hard not to think the UK is on fire. There's anger everywhere. Is it?
People are extremely angry.
A dangerous level of anger, in your view?
Yeah, seething with anger.
None of the conditions of what happened last summer have gone away. Violence might not happen, but the absence of riots shouldn't be anybody's test.
Tonight, Britain stands at a crossroads. What began as a small protest in Tottenham has spiraled into the most extraordinary 48 hours the country has witnessed in decades. A crisis unfolding street by street, city by city, with each hour bringing a fresh shock that has left the nation wide-eyed, breathless, and asking the same question: how did everything change so quickly? This is a Starscope News special report. Stay with us. The story begins quietly enough. On a Thursday afternoon in Tottenham, a single police shooting, officers opening fire on a man they say was linked to gang activity. The initial reaction was quiet, almost heartbreakingly contained. His family stood outside the police station with hand-painted signs, voices steady but heavy with grief. It looked like the kind of protest any city could manage, a moment that would pass with statements and condolences. But London has been dry tinder for months, and all it took was a spark. Within hours, that spark became a flame. Anger shifted into shouting, shouting into crowds, and crowds into something far darker. The usual soundtrack of buses, chatter, and car horns slipped away, replaced by the crack of breaking glass and the rise of sirens that sounded less like warnings and more like pleas. By late afternoon, unrest leapt across East London as if carried by wind. Hackney saw the first major surge. Officers who had been calmly holding a cordon moments before suddenly ducked behind shields as bottles came flying from the shadows. A cheer rang out. Then a scream. And then that unmistakable shift, a city tipping into chaos. Breaking alerts hit phones across the UK. London is burning, they said. At first, many dismissed it as sensationalism. But the footage that poured through didn't need dramatic language. Flames climbed shopfronts near King's Cross. Smoke coiled into the skyline like black ribbon. London, for the first time in years, looked like a warning. The Unrest's second ignition point came at 6:42 p.m. outside a migrant processing center, what had been a small, peaceful demonstration. People with tired faces, quiet signs, and a calm determination. No chanting, no theatrics. But when police moved in to clear the area, the crowd's composure fractured. A single bottle flew. Then another. And suddenly the scene dissolved into fire and panic. A police van went up in flames, its blue light still flashing as the blaze tore through it. The reflection of that pulsing blue on the smoke became one of the most replayed images of the night. The crowd surged toward the barricades shouting, "Protect our kids." Officers staggered backward, shields trembling under the weight of bodies and fury. Within minutes, live streams erupted across TikTok, YouTube, Telegram, dozens of angles of the same cascading chaos. The hashtag Britain Burns flooded social media at an unstoppable pace. And while the digital world erupted in arguments and speculation, the political world fell strangely silent. Inside Number 10, aides whispered, ministers conferred in jittery tones, and the government seemed paralyzed. But London did not pause. It unfolded. By 7 p.m., the unrest spilled into Shoreditch, Camden, and then across the river into South London. A fireball erupted near Brixton Station. In Canning Town, an overturned police van slid down the road as if pushed by sheer force of the crowd. In Westminster, a government billboard was torn down and set ablaze while people chanted around it as though marking the end of an era. Every new video became petrol thrown on an already raging digital wildfire. Reporters tried to label it civil unrest. But no one who watched the scenes believed those soft words. The United Kingdom looked like a country unraveling in real time. From Parliament's front steps, you could see columns of smoke drifting across the Thames. From Canary Wharf, flames flickered in the distance like a broken world on the horizon. At 8:47 p.m., the Home Office finally released a statement, one bland paragraph insisting the situation was under control. The reaction was instant disbelief. Under control. While half of London was visibly on fire. Leaks from inside police command centers began surfacing moments later, screenshots, messages, internal warnings. One line stuck out, morale collapsing. Units retreating. South Bank lost. Then came a moment replayed millions of times, a soot-covered officer, visor cracked, staring straight into a journalist's camera and saying, in a hollow voice, "We're not controlling it anymore." The feed cut seconds later. By 9:15 p.m., London felt like a battleground. Sirens ricocheted off empty buses abandoned mid-route. Shops yanked shutters down. Some people scavenged fallen goods, others simply fled. Journalists struggled to film without being shoved, pushed, or screamed at. And the anger no longer targeted the police alone. It turned on the government. The media. Anyone seen as part of the establishment. A drone captured one of the most haunting images of the night, the Thames black and silent beneath a city glowing orange from the fires surrounding it. Parliament sat in near darkness, the flicker of flames licking at its stone. Inside Downing Street, panic had fully taken hold. Advisors paced, ministers shouted, phones rang endlessly with updates no one wanted to hear. An aide burst into the room pale, shaking, whispering, "They've breached Trafalgar Square." The Prime Minister didn't respond at first. When he finally did, his voice cracked on two words, "God help us." By 10 p.m., the unrest spread nationwide. Manchester. Birmingham. Leeds. Migrant hotels surrounded. Police stations barricaded. Bristol erupted. Nottingham followed. Helicopters thumped across rooftops as crowds chanted, "We are Britain." And that chant no longer sounded like protest. It sounded like declaration. Then came a moment that stunned the country, a line of military veterans standing silently between protesters and police in South London. No signs. No slogans. One veteran looked into a camera and said, "We fought for this country once. We'll fight for it again." It reached 10 million views before midnight. Inside BBC headquarters, panic erupted. Producers whispered that Downing Street wanted coverage toned down. But it was too late. The footage was everywhere, fires swallowing Shoreditch, cars overturned in Croydon, mothers live streaming from balconies begging, "Where are the leaders?" At 10:42 p.m., a broadcast blackout order hit. Television networks cut to technical difficulties. Social media throttled hashtags. But people adapted instantly, re-uploads, mirror links, private channels. The truth kept slipping through every crack. By sunrise, London looked bruised yet breathing. Smoke drifted above the river and across streets lined with shattered glass. And beneath it all was a growing sense that Britain had just looked at its reflection, raw, unfiltered, unprotected. A journalist ended her morning report with the line heard across Britain, "The system didn't fall tonight. The people stood up." And when they did, the government blinked. But dawn didn't bring calm. It brought clarity. Entire streets lay gutted. Storefronts peeled open. A burnt-out bus leaned against a lamppost like a wounded thing. At 7:12 a.m., a leaked drone sweep captured the devastation, overturned patrol cars, scorched pavements, clusters of people who weren't dispersing but waiting. Waiting for something. Journalists called it the Dawn Standoff. Hundreds of protesters facing off with riot police across Westminster Bridge in total silence. No shouting. No movement. Just two sides locked in a stare neither wanted to break. Inside Number 10, strategy finally replaced paralysis. Ministers hunched around a polished table, exhausted. An advisor warned, "If this spreads to Liverpool or Glasgow, we lose control of the narrative. Then we lose the country." Someone muttered, "We've already lost it." Moments later, an aide burst in, clutching a tablet showing a live stream going viral, a 16-year-old boy standing on top of a burnt taxi in Whitechapel. "This wasn't a riot," he said. "It was a message. You ignored us. Now you hear us." His clip exploded across the nation. And then, at 9:03 a.m., something remarkable happened. Teachers, retirees, students, delivery drivers, everyday Londoners, came out with brooms, gloves, bin bags. They swept streets, cleared debris, handed water to officers. The city that burned began to heal itself. But underground, unseen, a second movement stirred. Intelligence intercepted encrypted messages referring to something called nightfall, a coordinated second wave planned for that evening. Emergency meetings reignited. Curfews drafted. Military units placed on standby. By dusk, the sky glowed not with fire but with thousands of phone screens lighting up simultaneously. A new hashtag, #NightfallRising. By 6:11 p.m., crowds surged again, not wild, not chaotic, but coordinated. From Brixton to Bethnal Green, Manchester to Coventry, people marched in silence. When they reached government buildings, police stations, city halls, they stopped. A woman lifted a sign, "Last night we burned. Tonight, we decide." At 6:47 p.m., a convoy of black cars swept into Downing Street. Officials carried folders marked, "Emergency." Inside, the Prime Minister stared at a blank sheet of paper, knowing any decision he made might define Britain for decades. But before he could speak, the lights went out. London. Manchester. Birmingham. A national blackout. Screams cut off. Street lights died. The UK fell into complete shadow. Then, silence. A silence so deep the world felt as if it had stopped breathing. One by one, phone flashlights lit across the country like artificial stars, a human constellation stretching from London to Liverpool. A woman in Suffolk stood on library steps and spoke into the darkness. "They turned off the power. But they didn't turn off us." Her words spread from phone to phone, city to city. Communities formed human chains. Families stood shoulder to shoulder. People who had never marched now lifted lights into the night. But deeper in the shadows, separate from the peaceful crowds, organized masked groups moved with purpose, toward communication masts, transport hubs, fuel depots. Nightfall's second phase was underway. Inside Parliament, portable lamps flickered. Ministers argued. Officers warned that if the Docklands data center fell, national systems could be crippled. Outside, the hum of failing generators vibrated underfoot. London held its breath. Then, near Tower Bridge, a low mechanical rumble grew. The bridge lights flickered, crackled, and snapped back on. Hope rippled through the crowd, until they realized the rest of the city remained pitch black. A single message appeared across the bridge's massive LED screen. 4 chilling words. It flashed once, then again, slower, deliberate. The crowd fell silent. Somewhere deep in the city's darkened heart, an unseen voice whispered, "Begin Phase 2. And London shuddered. This has been a Starscope News special report. For more breaking coverage, stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe to Starscope News.